So I thought I would close this semester by talking about something that we really haven't spent much time on, and that's buying your way to entrepreneurship. This whole course has been designed around creating something from new. We went all the way back to week one where we were talking about the problem solution fit test and how do we actually solve a problem for somebody else that leads to a business opportunity. Well, you don't necessarily have to start something new to become an entrepreneur. An easier and less risky path for you to consider might be purchasing an existing business or even a franchise. Might be buying something from somebody else that already exists or a franchise has a proven business model created by others. The upside of buying an existing business or buying a franchise is that you already have proof of concept. You remember that term from earlier in the course. So we have proof of concept that already exists when we buy a business or buy a franchise. We also can possibly have a customer base and even a revenue stream from buying that existing business. Now, the downside of getting a franchise or buying someone else's business is the cash. Generally speaking, it's going to be a little more pricey to buy something from somebody else because it's already established, already has that proof of concept, customer base, revenue stream, etc. And franchise fees also can be kind of expensive. We'll talk more about that here in just a second. So the upside of buying from somebody else is proof of concept, customer base, revenue stream. Downside, generally speaking, could be the cash required. Talk real quickly about franchise. So here are just some vocabulary terms for us to understand as we think about what a franchise really is. The first term is franchisor. A franchisor is a firm that originates the idea for the business and develops the operational methods, then sells as a package to a franchisee. So a franchisor would be someone like Subway or Shell, the C-store business, convenience store business. These are businesses that created a successful business model, were able to package it with an operational plan, kind of the keys to the kingdom, so to speak, and then sell it as a package to the franchisee. The franchisee then is the entrepreneur who buys the individual franchise from the franchisor. When a franchisor sells their concept to a franchisee, what's generated is called a franchise agreement. It's just a basic contract between the franchisor and the franchisee that contains lots of different clauses about operating the business, how the franchisee needs to operate the business, how they need to market the business, talks about purchasing supplies from the franchisee. And lastly, we'll talk about what the payment of the franchise fee is, and that'll be based on revenue. So every year, that franchisee will pay to the franchisor a fee to keep that franchise, and it'll be based on the revenue that's been generated by that franchisee. Now, what are some upsides of franchising? And my face is cutting off a couple examples, but all these businesses on the right are franchises. Ace Hardware, 9Round Fitness, Dunkin' Donuts. You probably can't see on here Sports Clips and Express Employment Professionals because my face is cutting them off. But it's amazing if you look around the businesses that are actually franchises, and many of them we don't even recognize. So let's talk about the upside of franchising. Well, let's talk about success for a second. The success is going to be dependent on the hard work of the franchisee as well as the value added by the franchisor. Generally speaking, franchises do very well because of the planning that's been put in place and all the blocking and tackling that's already been figured out by the franchisor. Now, success is also going to be a result, though, of you as a franchisee acting in ways to maximize the profit of the business. So even though these franchises are relatively plug and play, the onus is still on you as the owner, as the franchisee, to make it profitable. So how does the franchisor make money? So why would a franchisor want to sell their business off as a franchise to franchisees? I know I'm saying franchise a lot. So here's a couple ways that they make money. Number one, they'll sell the franchise to you. There'll be an initial fee to the franchisee that they'll have to pay. They'll sell supplies to the franchisee. As an example, 9Round, Dunkin' Donuts, Ace Hardware, they all have stuff that they sell directly to the franchisee to be put inside those stores. The donut products and the coffee products for Dunkin' Donuts, all of the boxing gloves and the hand wraps and the punching bags for 9Round Fitness. And Ace has all sorts of proprietary products, everything from window cleaner to the rubber stops for your bathtub that get sold underneath the Ace brand from ACE as a franchisor to the franchisee. They also collect a percentage of sales. That's their annual franchise fees, is renewal fees based upon that. And also by providing company-specific training. If you send your trainers off to 9Round as an example for training, you will pay for that training. So those are various ways the franchisor makes money. And really at the end of the day, it's a win-win. It's a win for the franchisee to get, basically a plug-and-play business model, and it's a win for the franchisor because of the revenues they generate through that franchisee. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about buying an existing business. Because as I said earlier, this might be a great way for you to start or for you to get a business of your own. There's some unique aspects, though, to purchasing an existing business that we need to understand. First one is locating a business to purchase. Sometimes we don't even know what businesses are out there that may be for sale, and it can be a little bit difficult to actually locate a business to purchase. We'll talk more about that in just a second. Developing a plan for the business. Your business that you purchase is going to need a new operational plan. That previous owner took it from startup to a certain level, and for you to recoup your return on investment, you're going to need to take it to a whole new other level yet, which is going to require a new plan, a new strategy. Negotiating a deal to acquire what you want, actually working out the deal, working out the terms to get the business that you want for a price that's appropriate. And the last one is organizing the process of change within the organization. We'll touch more on that in just one second. So how do we locate a business to purchase? Well, one really easy way is offer to buy a business. Maybe there's a store that you frequent or a business that you frequent that you really like the business model, and maybe you'd really like to own it. And so you just flat out ask the owners, hey, would you be willing to sell your business, or do you have any interest in selling your business? Another great way is through a business broker. These are folks that specialize in selling businesses. That's all they do is sell businesses. We've got some great ones here in Northeast Wisconsin that you could even look into. Other means for finding a business could be attorneys and accountants. They would know if their clients or clients that they know of may be thinking about selling, thinking about retiring. Trade association listings, if you get like the C-Store magazine, which is for all the convenience stores out there, the Express Marts and whatnot, there's always listings in there of C-stores that are available for sale. You could talk to the local U.S. Small Business Administration office or even the Small Business Development Center that's located at, I believe in our area, UW-Oshkosh as well as UWGB, and also bankruptcy listings. Sometimes there's opportunities to buy a business for, pennies on the dollar, if you will. There's some risk there because there's a reason that business failed, that it went bankrupt, but that might be an opportunity for you as a potential business owner. I mentioned earlier how we need to develop a new plan of operation. Well, a new plan of operation is required, as I said a second ago, because you're going to want to take this business, you're going to need to take this business to a whole other level than the previous owners took it, simply to recoup your investment. That's going to require a new plan of operation, a new way of doing things. This should be done prior to beginning negotiations. If you think about it, if you can't figure out a way through a new model to take this business to a whole other level like I just described, why bother even negotiating a purchase? So really you probably have to sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, NDA, with that business owner, probably with their attorney, to get all the financials and all the operating plans that they have, and then you go through those and you determine, can I figure out a better business model here to take this business to another level to recoup my investment? Understanding what one offers and what the business is missing will provide the basis of negotiations. If you can identify a way that you can exceed what they've done before, and you can demonstrate that, this could give you a hand up in negotiations, as well as determining in your mind what the appropriate purchase price is. Just like buying and selling anything, a used car, a house, your idea of value and the business owner's of value will probably be different. So you're going to need to know what you can offer and what the business is missing in order to find the right number for you. And knowing that you can add value is a critical step when you decide to purchase a business. You have to be able to add that value to take it to another level. And once you have that plan figured out, it's time to negotiate the deal. And you should be prepared to do that. You don't go through all that due diligence only to figure out, well, you know what, I really don't want to negotiate the deal, or I can't afford to negotiate the deal. You want to be ready to go as soon as your negotiations are complete, because most likely somebody else is also looking at that business. And if you figure out a way that you can make money at it, an appropriate amount of money, you want to move forward. You don't want to wait. Organizing the process of change. once negotiations are complete and all the contracts are signed is where the real work starts. Part of your job now is going to be as a change agent for that new business, that business that you now own. One of your very first steps is going to be to meet and discuss the transition with the current staff. Let them know that there's a new sheriff in town. Let them know your vision for where this company is going to go and what your plan is to get there. You're going to also need to spend significant time being visible in the new operation so that they know you're serious. So they get to know your personality. So they get to understand who you are and how you operate and what makes you tick and what makes you do not tick. I'm not even sure how to say that. What doesn't make you tick is going to be important to them to know how to acclimate themselves to the new boss. You want to make all significant changes in one day, or at least as quickly as possible. Maybe one day is not realistic, but if you need to redo the operating model and you can do majority of your changes in one day, you want to do that. You want to change things up and get people on the new plan as quickly as possible. Any new standards that you're going to create also need to be implemented as soon as possible so that people start following the new model versus the old model. Now, more than likely, if you purchase an existing business, you're going to want to have that former owner stick around for a while. It's very common that when we sell our businesses or we buy someone else's business, that there's a contract in place with those former owners that they stick around for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, something like that, to help with the transition, right? Well, one thing you're going to need to do, though, is get a little bit of a grace period in there where you basically kick them out of the business for a while. You want to ask those former owners not to be at the business for several weeks while the transition is taking place. The reason this is you want to immediately be able to assert your authority and your leadership as the owner of that new business. You don't want your employees running to the previous owners complaining about changes or asking for direction or advice or looking for decisions. That's not the previous owner's job anymore. That's your job. So you want to be able to train those employees to start coming to you versus the prior owners. And the only way you can do that is to send them fishing for a few weeks so that the employees know to start coming to you. And the last thing you need to think about when it comes to organizing the process of change is your customers and suppliers. You want to let them know about the change in ownership. And I would strongly suggest not doing this as a blanket mass email or mass mailing, anything like that. Your best customers, your best suppliers, your best vendors, get in the car, get in an airplane, and go visit them. They need to meet you and know what you are all about. More than likely, they are working with your business, either as a customer or as a supplier, based on the culture that existed before and just the methodology of doing business and the trust factor that was created. You need to now create that same bond that was held by the previous owners. So real quickly, that was just a conversation on buying an existing business or purchasing a franchise. And as I said when I started this video, maybe that's the best option for you as a potential entrepreneur. One thing I didn't talk about that I want to make sure I touch on real quickly is the money side of it. Now, buying an existing franchise, as I said before, can be expensive. And that's probably it's going to require you to actually have the cash available in hand to actually do the first franchise fee. The franchisors do have financing packages in place that they will actually finance the sale of the franchise to you. So if you don't have a whole bunch of cash lying around, but you want to purchase a franchise, their financing program might be an option for you. The same type of financing may exist through buying a business from somebody else. We call this seller financing. So if you're going to buy someone's tool and die business, perhaps what you could do is negotiate a deal with them, give them some sort of down payment, a sign of goodwill, assume operations, and then pay them out of the cash flow and the profitability of you running the business. That's a very common method. So you'd negotiate a purchase price. Then you would also negotiate a promissory note that would have an interest rate in there, essentially them lending you the money to pay them for the business. The upside for them is that they're going to get a little bit more money over time because they're going to get the value of the business plus interest on the payments that's going to take you a while to pay off, right? The upside to you is you don't need to try to find a bank to lend you money to buy a business. So long as you have some cash up front, Same way we started our own businesses from personal savings, our friends and family. You have some cash up front as a down payment, just like if you were to buy a car or buy a house or something that you can give the owner, and then do seller financing from there. So don't let my point is, my friends, is don't let the money side of this scare you from buying an existing business. There are ways to do this, either through franchising or financing through the franchisor, or through financing from the seller of the business. So that's what I have for you as part of this lecture. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day.